Narrator: the year was 1997. Phoenix, Arizona, a city defined by its relentless sun and sprawling ambition, hummed with the optimism of a booming economy and a population spilling into new, stuccoed subdivisions. For the teenagers of Paradise Valley High, life revolved around Friday night lights, mall excursions, and the promise of a future as bright and endless as the desert sky. Among them was Ashley Peterson, a name that would soon echo with the hollow ache of absence across the Valley of the Sun. Ashley was 17, a senior with a smile that could genuinely light up a room, even a stuffy school auditorium. Her life was a vibrant tapestry woven with cheerleading practice schedules, AP homework, part-time shifts at the Sunridge Mall's Limited 2, and the usual teenage dramas of friendships and first loves. She was a quintessential Arizona girl, sun-kissed blonde hair, an athletic build honed by years on the cheer squad, and eyes the color of a clear desert sky. Her parents, Robert and Susan Peterson, were pillars of their community in North Phoenix, a middle-class couple who had built their lives around providing a stable, loving home for Ashley and her younger brother, Mark. They saw in Ashley not just their daughter, but the embodiment of their dreams off to Arizona State University next year, a bright career ahead, a life full of promise. But beneath the surface shimmer of normalcy, a subtle shift had begun. Ashley, always an open book, had grown a little more private. Late-night phone calls, whispered conversations, and an occasional, uncharacteristic moodiness started to prick at Susan's maternal instincts. "Everything all right, honey?" Susan would ask, her voice laced with a gentle concern. Ashley would offer a quick, practiced smile. "Just school stuff, Mom, you know how it is." The Petersons, wanting to grant their daughter the independence a 17-year-old craved, tried not to press too hard. They attributed it to senior year stress, a prelude to college. They couldn't have known it was a precursor to something far more sinister. The last day anyone outside her family saw Ashley Peterson was a sweltering Tuesday, September 23, 1997. The day began like any other. School, a spirited cheer practice under the relentless Phoenix sun, followed by her shift at the mall. Robert picked her up around 9 p.m., the desert night still radiating the day's heat. Ashley seemed tired, subdued. She mentioned a study group she was planning for later that week, a casual remark that would later haunt her parents with its cruel irony. She kissed them goodnight, mumbled something about an early start, and retreated to her room. The next morning the house was eerily quiet. Susan, always the early riser, noticed Ashley's bedroom door ajar, the bed neatly made, a small, anxious knot tightened in her stomach. Ashley was meticulous, but she rarely made her bed before leaving for school. And her car, the beat-up '89 Honda Civic Robert had painstakingly restored for her, was still in the driveway. A quick check of her room confirmed her purse, car keys, and the small, brick-like cellular phone, a relatively new accessory for many teens at the time, were all missing. Her cheerleading uniform, laid out for her usual early morning practice, remained untouched on her chair. Panic, cold and sharp, seized Susan. Robert, still half asleep, tried to rationalize. Maybe she stayed at a friend's, honey. Forgot to call, but Ashley always called. Always, as the hours stretched, the rationalizations dissolved into a terrifying certainty. By noon, the Petersons were at the Phoenix Police Department's North Mountain precinct, their voices trembling as they filed a missing person report for their daughter, Ashley Marie Peterson. Detective Mark Jensen was a man forged in the crucible of Phoenix's unforgiving heat and its equally unforgiving criminal underbelly. A veteran of 20 years on the force, Jensen had seen it all. Runaways, abductions, the tragic, mundane, and the truly horrific. He had a quiet, methodical approach, a weary wisdom etched around his eyes. He listened intently to the Petersons, his gaze missing nothing. He noted the frantic desperation in Susan's voice, the rigid control Robert attempted to maintain. This wasn't a typical runaway. Ashley Peterson, by all accounts, was grounded, responsible, and looking forward to her future. The initial investigation launched with a chilling urgency. Squad cars fanned out across North Phoenix. Friends, teachers, and coworkers were interviewed. The last known sighting was Ashley leaving the mall with her father. No one had seen her after she returned home. Her car, still parked, offered no clues. Her room, meticulously searched, revealed no hidden notes, no signs of forced entry. The landline phone records were pulled. The last outgoing call was to a friend, Stephanie Miller, at 9:37 p.m., a brief, innocuous chat about a history assignment. Her pager, a common communication tool then, had no suspicious numbers. Her early model cell phone, a Motorola flip phone, was off and untraceable. The desert, a vast, indifferent expanse, swallowed up the initial search efforts. Helicopters crisscrossed the Sonoran landscape, their rotors kicking up dust, their searchlights probing the creosote bushes and arroyos. Ground teams scoured the perimeters of Ashley's neighborhood, abandoned lots and remote trails in the Phoenix Mountains Preserve. Nothing. No discarded clothing, no signs of a struggle, no witnesses. It was as if Ashley Peterson had simply vanished into the arid air. Detective Jensen, a man who rarely let an emotion show, felt the familiar tightening in his gut. These cases, the ones where the earth itself seemed to swallow a person whole, were the hardest. They left families adrift in an ocean of uncertainty, haunting the investigators who felt the immense pressure of their trust. The media initially was relentless. Local news channels ran continuous stories, anchors speaking of the missing cheerleader, her smiling photograph plastered across screens. Yellow ribbons appeared on mailboxes throughout North Phoenix, a silent plea for her return. The community rallied, organizing search parties, distributing flyers emblazoned with Ashley's vibrant face. But as days bled into weeks and weeks into months, the relentless Phoenix sun continued its cycle, indifferent to human suffering. The news stories became less frequent, then disappeared altogether. The yellow ribbons frayed and faded under the harsh UV rays. Tips, initially numerous, dwindled to a trickle of dead ends, cruel hoaxes, and psychic ramblings, none of which panned out. The Petersons, once surrounded by a torrent of support, found themselves increasingly isolated in their grief. Susan became a phantom, her once bright eyes hollowed by unshed tears, her energy consumed by a desperate, ceaseless hope. Robert, stoic to a fault, retreated into himself, the weight of not being able to protect his daughter crushing him from the inside out. Mark, Ashley's younger brother, tried to be strong for his parents, but the void left by his sister was a constant, aching presence. Detective Jensen, however, never truly let go. Ashley Peterson's file sat on a specific shelf in his office, a stark reminder of the cases that gnawed at him. He revisited it periodically, poring over the same reports, the same witness statements, hoping a fresh pair of eyes or a new perspective would reveal what he'd missed. He'd drive past the Petersons' quiet home, seeing the dimmed porch light, feeling the heavy silence that permeated their lives. He knew with the certainty of experience that some cases simply faded into the desert's vast, forgotten embrace. But Ashley's case felt different. There was no closure, no body, no definitive sign, only absence. 8 years passed. The year was 2005. Phoenix had continued its relentless growth, new freeways carved through the desert, new subdivisions bloomed like mirages. The technology landscape had transformed dramatically. Cell phones were ubiquitous, smart and connected. The internet, once a novelty, was an everyday tool, but for the Petersons, time had stood still. Ashley was forever 17, suspended in that agonizing moment of disappearance. Then, on a scorching August afternoon, a discovery was made that tore open old wounds and sent a ripple of disbelief through the Phoenix Valley. Far to the northwest of the city, in a remote, rugged stretch of the Sonoran Desert near the foothills of the White Tank Mountains, an area Ashley had no known connection to, a crew from a local utility company was performing routine maintenance on a high-voltage power line. One of the technicians, a seasoned man named Frank Chavez, spotted something unusual glinting amidst a cluster of saguaro cacti, half buried in a shallow, wind-eroded wash. It was a backpack. Not a new, brightly colored one, but an older model, faded to a dull gray by years of sun exposure, its fabric stiff with dust and dried mud. It was clearly not contemporary. Chavez, with a morbid curiosity, knelt and cautiously pulled it from the earth. The straps were brittle, the zippers caked shut. He carefully unzipped the main compartment, revealing its contents, perfectly preserved by the dry desert air, yet utterly chilling. Inside, among a few ordinary items, a crumpled Paradise Valley High student ID card with Ashley Peterson's smiling face, a faded, slightly water-damaged copy of Catcher in the Rye, a scrunchie, and a small, worn photo of her and Stephanie Miller was an old Motorola flip phone. Its battery was long dead, its plastic casing cracked and bleached. But what truly froze Chavez's blood was the final item, a small, spiral-bound notebook, its cover faded, its pages yellowed and brittle at the edges but still legible. On its first page, written in Ashley's distinctive, neat handwriting, was her name. The discovery was immediately reported to the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, whose jurisdiction covered the remote area. Detective Jensen, now a lieutenant and working in cold cases, received the call. The name Ashley Peterson hit him like a physical blow, a ghost from his past resurrected. He was on the scene within the hour, the desert heat, a familiar, oppressive weight. The area was quickly cordoned off, a forensic team already meticulously documenting the scene. Jensen picked up the notebook, his gloved hands trembling slightly. He opened it carefully, the pages crackling. It wasn't a diary in the traditional sense, but a collection of sparse entries, observations, and some almost coded notes. Many were mundane teenage thoughts, complaints about homework, excitement for a cheer competition. But then, as he leafed through, he found entries from the days leading up to her disappearance, chillingly specific. Sep 19 felt weird today. He was watching. Sep 20, he said he could help with college apps, so nice. Stephanie thinks he's creepy, but he's not, just intense. Sep 22 tonight, said he knows a shortcut to the study group. Don't tell mom and dad, be back early. The entry for September 22nd, the last one, was particularly disturbing. Tonight, said he knows a shortcut to the study group. Don't tell mom and dad, be back early. No name was mentioned, no specific location beyond the vague shortcut. The study group she had mentioned to her parents was a fabricated alibi. Ashley had intended to meet someone, a he, in secret. She had gone willingly, believing a lie. The implications were horrifying. The forensic examination of the backpack yielded some crucial but frustratingly limited clues. Traces of male DNA were found on the backpack straps, too degraded to create a full profile, but enough to indicate an unknown male. The notebook, after careful analysis, showed an indentation on the last page, a faint imprint from something written on a page torn out. Forensic experts managed to reconstruct a few letters: M, Road, Casa, and then nothing. Casa Grande, Casablanca. The flip phone was sent to a specialized lab. Miraculously, technicians were able to extract some data from its ancient memory chip. There were no outgoing calls on the morning of September 24th, confirming she hadn't made it to school. But there was a received text message, timestamped 10:17 p.m. on September 23rd, just an hour after she was last seen by her father. The message simply read, "Meet me at the usual." Don't be late. There was no sender ID, a common limitation of early SMS. It was a prearranged rendezvous, not a spontaneous encounter. The discovery reignited the cold case with a vengeance. The media, a new generation of reporters, descended upon the Petersons again. Susan, now a ghost of her former self, was forced to relive the nightmare. Robert, his hair fully white, spoke with a renewed, fragile hope that this time they might get answers. Detective Jensen, now working with a new generation of analysts and the benefit of advanced forensic tools, pulled out the original case files. He pored over the witness statements, looking for any mention of a new male acquaintance, someone intense, someone who offered help with college apps. Old suspects were re-interviewed, their alibis re-examined. Teenagers from 1997, now adults with lives and families of their own, were asked to recall details from nearly a decade ago. Stephanie Miller, Ashley's best friend, now a kindergarten teacher in Mesa, tearfully recounted her unease about a particular older student, a quiet, intense senior named Michael Thorne, who had shown an almost obsessive interest in Ashley. Thorne had been questioned briefly in 1997, but his alibi, though flimsy, had held up. He had since moved out of state, leaving no forwarding address. The cryptic M, Road. Casa, from the torn notebook page, became a new focus. Was it a name, a location? Jensen and his team theorized it could be a reference to a road leading to Casa Grande, a city south of Phoenix, or perhaps to the Casa Grande Ruins National Monument, a historical site. The distance from the White Tank Mountains to Casa Grande was significant, suggesting a planned journey. The discovery of Ashley's backpack and notebook provided agonizing new pieces to the puzzle, confirming she hadn't run away, but had met with foul play. It hinted at a secret relationship, a deliberate deception, and a journey into the vast, indifferent desert, but it did not provide a full answer. The he in her notebook remained nameless, faceless. The reconstructed letters were not enough to identify a clear location or a name. The DNA, while tantalizing, was not sufficient for a definitive match. The case was no longer cold, but it was still unsolved. Today, Ashley Peterson's case remains open. The backpack and its contents are preserved in an evidence locker, a tangible, heartbreaking link to a life cut short. Lieutenant Jensen, now retired, still thinks about Ashley, about the smile on her ID card, about the parents he could never bring closure to. The Sonoran Desert, as it always does, holds its secrets close, its vastness a silent testament to tragedies unseen. 8 years after she vanished, Ashley Peterson spoke from beyond the grave, not with a full story, but with a chilling, heartbreaking whisper that only deepened the mystery. leaving a family and a community forever haunted by the question. Who was he, and what truly happened to the bright, hopeful cheerleader who vanished in Phoenix that fateful night in 1997? Her story is a stark reminder that sometimes the most profound answers remain hidden, swallowed whole by time and the silent, unforgiving desert.